There is something this person owes you that they have not yet paid. Not money, not a favor, not anything that belongs to the transactional realm of what people exchange in ordinary life. Something considerably harder to give and considerably more necessary to receive. The truth about what happened, delivered to you directly, without the defensive softening that tends to make these conversations feel like the person apologizing is the one whose comfort is being centered, without the maneuvering that turns what should be a reckoning into a performance of one, without the specific kind of almost apology that does just enough to create the appearance of accountability while carefully avoiding the full weight of genuine acknowledgement. You have been waiting for something real, something that actually matches the size of what happened rather than the size of what this person is comfortable owning. And the specific quality of that waiting, the patient, slightly exhausted, occasionally quietly furious quality of someone who knows they deserve something and who has not yet received it, is what arrived in your energy the moment I opened this reading today. The cards heard it, and what they showed me in response is something I need to walk you through carefully, because it is not only about what is coming, it is also about what this person has been sitting with internally while you have been waiting, and about what understanding that interior experience might do to the quality of how you receive what eventually arrives. Let us get into it. Let me describe what I felt the moment this energy opened, because the first impressions were distinct and they carry real signal about the full shape of what the cards then confirmed. I felt the specific weight of an unfinished thing, not the weight of grief, which has a different texture, more raw, more diffuse. The weight of something that is technically over but that has not yet been properly closed, that still has a thread hanging, that still requires something from both parties before it can genuinely settle. The sensation of a sentence that has been stopped before its natural period, and of someone waiting at the other end of that incomplete sentence for the rest of it to arrive. I also felt, alongside that specific weight, something that surprised me slightly in its clarity. I felt your dignity intact, not untouched, because what this person did clearly touched it, but unbroken. The specific, quiet, grounded kind of dignity that belongs to someone who has processed something genuinely unfair with more grace than the situation deserved, and who has emerged from that processing with their sense of their own worth still fundamentally solid, even if it has been tested. That dignity is going to matter enormously in how this apology lands when it arrives. Because what you bring to that moment is not brokenness looking to be repaired. It is wholeness that is owed an acknowledgement it has not yet received. The first card in this reading arrived in the position representing what this person has been carrying internally since whatever happened between you. And I want to be honest about what it showed me before we go anywhere more comfortable. This card shows a figure seated upright in bed in the dark, 9 blades arranged on the wall above them, face in their hands in the specific posture of someone whose mind will not grant them peace regardless of how much they want it to. This is not the comfortable sleep of someone who has made a clean peace with what they did. This is the restless, interrupted, privately miserable state of someone whose own knowing of what they owe keeps surfacing despite their best efforts to submerge it. I am sensing this person has not been comfortable. That is the most important thing I want to deliver from this card, because I think part of what makes waiting for an apology so difficult is the occasional suspicion that the person who owes it has simply moved on without the kind of reckoning that the weight of what happened would seem to require. The fear that they are fine while you are not, that the asymmetry of impact means they simply deposited something difficult with you and walked away lighter. The cards are showing me something different. I am sensing this person has not been able to walk away lighter. The specific quality of what they did has a weight that has followed them, appearing in the quiet moments they were hoping would finally be quiet, surfacing in the ordinary circumstances that should have nothing to do with you, but that the mind keeps threading back toward anyway. They have been sitting with this, not comfortably, not at peace, in the specific discomfort of someone who knows what they owe and has not yet found the courage or the way to pay it. I also want to speak to what this card tends to suggest about the proximity of a turning point. The number here is significant. In the language of the cards, this number within the suit governing the mind represents the specific final moment of a difficult mental cycle before the transition that follows, the last intensification before the tide turns. What I am reading is someone who has reached the point where continuing to hold this internally costs more than finally expressing it outward. The 9 of this suit rarely sustains itself indefinitely. The pressure it describes has a natural resolution, and that resolution is the movement toward the reckoning they have been avoiding. The second card appeared in the position representing what specifically this person needs to acknowledge, what the apology actually needs to contain in order to be genuine rather than performative. And I want to describe this carefully because I think naming it clearly is part of what helps, whether what eventually arrives is the real thing. This card shows a figure in robes seated between 2 pillars, holding an open book, with the specific quality of someone whose authority comes from genuine knowledge and whose judgment is impartial rather than personal. This is the card of truth in its most complete and unsoftened form of what actually happened, rather than the version that has been managed and edited for an audience. In this position, it tells me that what the real apology needs to contain is not a general acknowledgement of having caused hurt. It needs to contain a specific acknowledgement of what was true, of what this person knew, of what they chose, and of how those choices affected you. I am sensing the version of events that this person has been carrying and perhaps sharing with others around them has some significant divergences from what actually happened. Not necessarily outright lies, but the specific kind of narrative management that allows someone to feel better about their own role while the person they harmed carries a version of the story that does not include the full truth. Part of what you are owed is the correction of that record. Not necessarily publicly, not necessarily in any, dramatic way, but in the private space between you, the acknowledgement that what they may have implied or suggested or allowed people to believe was not the full truth, and that the full truth is something they are finally ready to say. I also want to speak to the 2 pillars in this card because they carry something important about the balance being sought here. The truth held between 2 equal structures of support is what produces genuine stability. A half-truth, a managed narrative, an apology that carries aversion rather than the version is inherently unstable. What you are owed is the version that actually holds, that does not require ongoing maintenance to keep standing, that you can simply receive and integrate rather than having to continuously manage the gaps in it. I want to expand on something about the specific form the genuine version needs to take, because I think you have known instinctively what was wrong with whatever approximations you may have already received, And being able to articulate that clearly to yourself is part of what enables you to recognize the real thing when it finally arrives. A genuine acknowledgement does not center the feelings of the person giving it. It does not spend most of its energy explaining the context that led to what happened, as though the context changes what you experienced. It does not end with something that redirects attention back toward the other person's growth or their intention or their overall goodness as a human being. What it does is simply, completely, without self-protective qualification, name what happened and name its impact and acknowledge that you deserved better. The economy of it, the specific absence of self-protection, that is how you will know it is real. Does this feel like it is naming what has been missing, Virgo? The specific quality of what has not yet been said that needs to be said? Let me know in the comments, because I am sensing for many of you watching this, the gap between what you received and what you needed is very precise, and you have known exactly what that gap consists of, even if you have not been able to get it acknowledged. The third card arrived in the position I read as the specific mechanism by which this apology is going to travel from this person's internal reckoning toward actual expression. And it is a card that tells me something important about both the process and its likelihood. This card shows a figure emerging from a still body of water, holding a sword upright toward a clear morning sky, with the quality of someone who has passed through something difficult and who has reached the surface on the other side of it. This is a card of clarity arrived at after struggle, of a mind that has finally resolved something it has been wrestling with, of a decision that has crystallized cleanly after a long period of being complicated. I am sensing that what this card is describing in relation to this person is a specific kind of internal resolution that has recently occurred or is in the process of occurring. The specific moment when the mental wrestling about whether and how and when to say something stops being an open question and becomes a settled one, not a comfortable settling, but a genuine one. The kind that produces the specific quality of readiness that actual apologies require, the readiness to say something that does not protect you, that does not position you favorably, that simply puts the truth in the other person's hands and allows them to do with it what they will. I also want to speak to the water element here, because the figure is emerging from water, which in the language of the cards governs emotion and the deep interior life. What this person has been wrestling with is not primarily intellectual. They have been feeling this, the guilt or the remorse or the specific discomfort of knowing they owe something real has been an emotional experience, not simply a cognitive calculation about what the right thing to do is. That emotional weight is what is finally producing the clarity. They are not arriving at this because they reasoned their way to it. They are arriving at it because they can no longer carry the feeling of not having done it. Inhale with me, Virgo, because the fourth card is the one that I think you most need to hear. And I want to make sure the space around it is right before I describe it. This card shows a winged figure standing in a landscape with 1 foot on land and 1 foot in water, pouring continuously between two vessels without spilling, the quality of someone maintaining a balance so precise and so sustained that the movement itself has become effortless. This is the card of genuine healing, of the specific quality of patient, unforced integration that produces real restoration rather than the performed version of it. And what I want to say about this card in the context of your reading today is that it arrived in the position representing what the apology can actually do for you when it comes. I want to be honest about this because I think you deserve honesty more than comfort. An apology, even a genuine one, even the exact right one, does not instantly repair everything. That is not what this card is describing, and I will not pretend otherwise. What it does do, when it is genuine, when it actually contains the truth rather than a managed version of it, is create a specific condition that was previously unavailable. The condition of having received what you were owed, of being able to close something not by deciding to close it unilaterally and carry the weight of that incomplete closure forever, but by having the missing piece actually arrive, actually be placed in your hands, actually complete what was left incomplete. That completion has a quality of relief that I do not want to undersell. Not relief that everything is fine, not relief that the hurt did not happen or did not matter, but the specific relief of the unfinished thing finally finishing, of the sentence finally receiving its period, of being able to move forward carrying something that is complete rather than something that is technically over but still unresolved. That is what is approaching for you. Not a miracle, not a complete erasure of what happened, but the genuine completion that has been missing, arriving in a form that is real enough to actually provide it. I want to address something about how to receive this when it arrives, because I think Virgo's particular relationship with precision and with fairness creates a specific challenge in moments like this one that is worth naming in advance. When this apology comes, something in you will assess it immediately, automatically, in the way that your mind assesses everything it encounters. It will begin evaluating whether it is accurate enough, complete enough, genuine enough, sufficiently specific in its acknowledgement of exactly what was owed. That assessment is not a character flaw. It is your mind doing what your mind does, applying its considerable precision to the question of whether what you have received actually matches what was required. What I want to offer alongside that assessment is a companion question, not instead of the assessment, but alongside it. The companion question is whether what you receive, even if it is imperfect in its form, even if it does not land with precisely the right words or acknowledge every specific thing you might have hoped it would, is nevertheless a genuine attempt by someone who has finally found the courage to do something genuinely difficult. Because the precision of what you receive and the genuineness of its intent are not always perfectly aligned. Someone can mean something real and express it imperfectly, and the question of whether to receive an imperfect expression of a genuine thing is one that your own fairness, which is one of your most admirable qualities, is actually well positioned to navigate if you allow it to turn in both directions. I am not asking you to accept less than you are owed. I am asking you to hold both the standard and the grace simultaneously, which is actually one of the things you are most capable of when you are operating at your best. The fifth card arrived in the position of what comes after, what the landscape of your life looks like once this thing that has been unfinished has been finished. And it is a card that I want to describe with the warmth it carries because it belongs to you and it has been waiting for this moment to be available. This card shows a triumphant figure in a chariot moving forward with complete directional authority, the energy of someone who has finally resolved the thing that was dividing their forward momentum and who is now simply and fully moving. The water element's sign governs this card, pointing toward the emotional realm, suggesting that the forward movement available here is not primarily practical or logistical, but emotional. It is the specific felt bodily sense of being able to move through your own life without the particular drag of an unresolved thing pulling at you from behind. I am sensing this card is describing a quality of aliveness that has been slightly muted by this situation. Not entirely. You are genuinely too grounded for one unresolved thing to silence you completely, but slightly. The specific way that an unclosed chapter occupies some portion of your awareness, even when you are not consciously thinking about it. That portion of your awareness is going to come back to you when this closes. And what you do with it, where you point the restored fullness of your forward momentum, is something I sense you already know and have been waiting to be able to give your full attention to. The forward motion available to you after this is not compensatory, not the rushed movement of someone trying to outrun something painful. It is the natural, unobstructed, fully inhabited motion of someone who has received what they were owed and who can now simply be in the present tense of their own life rather than partially caught in the unresolved past tense of something incomplete. Before I close, I want to say something about the patience you have exercised through this period, because I think it deserves to be acknowledged rather than taken for granted. Waiting for an apology that has not come, knowing you deserve something you have not received, maintaining your dignity through a period that has tested it, these are not small things. They are the specific, daily, unglamorous work of someone with genuine integrity in a situation where integrity has not been met with its equivalent from the other side. You have done that work. Quietly, without announcement, often without acknowledgement, sometimes without even fully recognizing it as the work that it is. The apology that is coming is not a reward for the patience. You should not have needed patience in the first place. What happened should not have happened in the first place. And the truth you are owed should have been offered long before it required this much waiting to arrive. But it is arriving. And when it does, I want you to receive it with all of who you are, the dignity that has remained intact, the fairness that extends in both directions, and the genuine capacity for genuine closure that this moment is going to make available to you. You have been owed this, and it is finally on its way. If this reading names something you have been waiting for without always being able to say clearly why the waiting has felt so important, please share it with a Virgo who might be in the same unresolved place and who needs to hear that the closure is coming. And leave me a comment. I want to hear what this brought up for you and whether what you have been waiting for has a specific shape you recognize from this reading. I read every single comment and I hold every story shared in this space with genuine care long after this video ends. Until next time, Virgo, you have been owed the truth. You have been owed the apology. You have been owed the proper ending of something that was left incomplete. It is coming not as charity, as what was always yours to receive.